Taxes. No one wants to lose a sizable portion of their income by paying taxes, but there's no way around it, right? Well, not quite. There are tax havens all around the world where rich people can go to avoid all the hefty taxes they may have to pay where they're from, and they get away with it. In this video, we'll take a closer look at 15 places where the rich avoid taxes. Welcome to ALUX, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Number 1. Panama. Normally with tax havens, you don't really see much news about people that have been using the area to make the most out of the money they're earning. Thousands of people did the same thing by using Panama. That's because Panama is one of the best countries one could move to if they wanted to save every little penny. How? Well, Panama is one of few countries in the world that imposes zero taxes on offshore companies. They can go all out, doing business in other companies while being based in Panama, and as long as the business isn't being run inside the country, there's no taxes to be paid. And not only that, but even the people running the company are exempt. They don't have to pay corporate taxes, regular withholding taxes, income taxes, capital gains tax, general local taxes, and even estate or inheritance taxes. So everything they earn and everything they own is theirs to keep. Panama's been so popular for people that avoided taxes throughout history that in 2016, a law firm was raided by the police, and in that raid, they found documents that were later called the Panama Papers. In those documents was information on hundreds upon hundreds of influential people from all over the world who were using tax havens around the world for legal and illegal purposes. And if that doesn't prove that a country is a massive tax haven on its own, we don't know what would. Number 2. The United Arab Emirates. The UAE is one of the most popular places in the world for rich people. Folks from all over the world flock to the UAE to set up their own home base, but have you ever wondered why they do that? Well, it's because it's so easy not to pay taxes there. For starters, you've got a lot of free trade zones that you can take advantage of. With them, you can easily and legally trade without having to pay anything to the government. The areas and industries that do require taxes are usually taxed at such a low rate, they're still more attractive than most people's home countries. That, paired with the fact that there are several secrecy facilities that will help anyone save on their taxes for the right price, makes the UAE one of the top tax havens in the world. And speaking of places that the rich easily avoid taxes, have you ever thought about how the rich got away with not paying taxes in the first place? Check out our video on the 15 ways rich people avoid paying taxes, and you'll be shocked about how people can trick the system and save themselves millions of dollars. Now back onto the video with number 3, the United Kingdom. Now, the UK might not be the first place that comes to your mind in terms of tax-free living, but when you actually get there, you'd realize just how much the area helps out the rich. For starters, the UK governed some of the world's other safe havens very successfully, and well, took a lot of the world's riches back with them too, so it's not that surprising that deep down it's still working the way that benefits the richest of the world. While most of the other safe havens only account for under 1% of the world's offshore companies, the UK is home to 16%. Now, not all of them are here to take advantage of the country's lax financial regulations. Some are legit businesses, but with a number that massive, thousands of people that just want to live off all their riches squeeze right in. Number 4. Taiwan. Taiwan is usually in the news for its long-standing battle with China over its own freedom. But did you know they're inadvertently also fighting for freedom for people that don't want to pay regular taxes? Yup. Taiwan is a usually unnoticed tax haven, but it's still a pretty massive one nonetheless. It's basically called the Switzerland of Asia. We'll get to the Switzerland part of things a little bit later. But Taiwan is popular because it's all nice and safe for the people that live there. It's easy to live there too, and with lots of financial benefits for being there. The government doesn't tax foreigners at all. Plus, it's not a signatory to the CRS, so it doesn't have to report the financial happenings that go on through the country. Secretive by default. Number 5. Singapore. Singapore is known to the world for being one of the best places to live. It's got great people, the entire country is tiny, the general laws make it fairly safe, and there's every amenity you can think of. But one of the main reasons why people flock to the country is because it's known as the grandfather of tax havens. Now, from the outset, that doesn't seem true. While most countries have 0% income tax, Singapore's corporate income tax rate is flat at 17%. So you'd think that people would have to pay a significant chunk of their income back to the country. But the world of loopholes steps in here. Tax exemptions. There are lots of tax exemptions that keep people's pockets full of that sweet tax-free money. Whether it's startup tax exemptions or random little tax breaks that you can secure, there's a lot of room to get away with some crazy discounts. And not only that, because the laws that allow financial institute records to stay private means that no one can really dig deep into the nitty-gritty of any individual. All that matters is the money they keep in the accounts. How they're getting it, where it's coming from, all of those little details just don't seem to matter that much. As long as you aren't breaking any laws inside Singapore, you'll be just fine. Number 6. Luxembourg. People often think that tax havens are just shady little islands that nobody really goes to, and that's why you're able to save on taxes. But more often than not, that's not the case. Luxembourg is a prime example of that. It's no shady place, but one of the wealthiest countries in Europe. Plus, a significant chunk of their GDP, around 35%, comes from their financial sector alone. So you'd think that they would go out of their way to impose lots of taxes and general money-related regulations to keep things under control, right? But that's not it. They start off with business-friendly policies that make it cheaper to set up an offshore account there, but that's not all. There are simply too many tax loopholes that there are just out in the open to anyone to take advantage of. Plus, the banks are all about secrecy here, so just keep making the payments and they won't say a thing to anyone, and what's even better is that no one really comes knocking for answers either. Number 7. Bermuda. Bermuda might be famous for the Bermuda Triangle, but planes and ships aren't the only thing that go missing here, so do taxes. Even though Bermuda is an expensive island to live on in general, it has a 0% tax rate and there's literally no income tax whatsoever. And because of that, 1/4 of the world's Fortune 500 companies have at least one account here. That isn't just the little companies, even major names like Nike have their offshore accounts in Bermuda. With that, they're able to milk every drop of the money they earn without spending even $1 in taxes. Number 8. The Netherlands. The Netherlands is known for being this amazing, peaceful place that you can go to, and even if you're doing absolutely nothing, you'll have a good time. Add to that the fact that you could get away with avoiding taxes, and you'd have a full package on your hands. This is essentially a really small country. New York is 3 times its size, yet it's at the top of the world's list for incoming foreign direct investments. The Dutch fiscal policies are structured in a way that there are no real taxes on international capital flows. And because of that, a lot of companies just register in the Netherlands and don't even have any presence there whatsoever. That means the money goes there totally tax-free, and they can use it wherever and however they want, without anyone asking any questions. All that and great weather all year round, and you've got yourself the perfect place to base your company out of. Number 9. Mauritius. Mauritius may be popular for the crystal blue waters and being a honeymooner's dream, but in reality, it's a lot more than just that. Business owners based out of here don't have to pay any taxes whatsoever on their capital gains, and the taxes they do pay, like income taxes and the like, are so low they're virtually non-existent. And even those people end up getting tax breaks while enjoying their time in the country that isn't just a tax haven, it's so beautiful you'll feel like you're in actual heaven. Number 10. Malta. Remember the Panama Papers we mentioned at the start of the video? Well, one of the countries that just kept popping up in those papers was Malta. It's so crazy there that it's commonly known as Europe's pirate base for tax. Even though the country isn't legally a tax haven, there's just so much benefit one can get by basing their accounts there that it kind of ends up becoming an organic tax haven instead. It imposes very, very low taxes on foreign companies. So throughout history, people have flocked to the region so they can still be in the EU without having to pay the traditional EU taxes. To make things more clear, a regular domestic business pays around 35% in taxes, while the foreign company pays under 5%. And if that doesn't sound like the perfect place to put your offshore account, we don't really know what does. Number 11, Seychelles. There are two types of tax havens. Those that are all secretive about being one and allowing people to use the loopholes to get away from not paying taxes or paying very low ones. And then there's those that are just out in the open. And Seychelles is the latter, my friend. They're very open about the fact they want businesses to come in and set up shop there, and they will fully accommodate them. As long as the company isn't conducting any business inside the borders of the island, they can get away with paying $0 in taxes. Now, this doesn't just mean income tax. It also includes capital gains tax, any dividends they earn, interest, and even inheritance or property taxes. So just base out of there and do your business abroad, and all of your money is yours to keep. Number 12, Canada. Oh, Canada, the land of nice people, sorries and thank yous, and unexpectedly, tax-free income? That might not seem right at first because of all the taxes people in the country pay, but loopholes are always ready to help out when things seem out of control, at least for the super wealthy. One of the biggest ways Canada ends up being a tax haven is through its non-double taxation treaty with Barbados. People that have an account in Barbados can transfer their money to the Canadian banks and not be charged anything on that income. You would think, okay, so they're being taxed in Barbados, so it's not fair to pay tax twice, right? Well, in theory, yes. But the companies with their accounts in Barbados only pay around 1 to 2.5% in taxes, so they pretty much have all their money intact anyway. So using the treaty, they legally move all of that untouched money to Canada, and from there it can go wherever they want, without having to worry about anyone asking for a cut. Sneaky little tax haven with a great reputation. Number 13, Cayman Islands. While most countries try their best to grow their domestic economies, the Cayman Islands go above and beyond to bring in more and more foreign investments. Just to put things into perspective, the foreign assets in the country are worth 1,500 times more than the assets owned by the entire domestic economy itself. How does it do that? By being extremely secretive about the accounts based out of there, so the uber rich don't get into trouble by having however much money they want in their accounts there. Plus, there's no corporate tax, zero. And to top all of this off, no investment taxes of interests either. Because of all of this, a lot of the world's hedge funds are based out of the Cayman Islands, and all of that money is totally tax-free. Number 14. Thailand. Thailand might be known for being one of the best travel destinations in the world, but it's also amazing for the rich that want to stay rich. For starters, they have double tax treaties like Canada does with Barbados, but instead of just one country, they've got this treaty with 61 of them. All companies have to do is keep their money in a different country for a year after it's earned, and then bring it in and pay absolutely nothing on it. That way, the money isn't directly coming into the country, and it's totally tax-free. Number 15, Switzerland. All right, now on to the country that made tax havens a thing in the first place, Switzerland. It's still using 1934 banking secrecy laws, which were set up in the time to help people of the olden days move their money around without being noticed. You don't just become the grandfather of all tax havens out of nowhere, do you? You do that by being a tax haven since your grandfather's time. Even though they're trying to phase out the image, a significant part of their economy is still reliant on foreign investments. One of the biggest reasons it's been such a successful tax haven is it has extremely low or sometimes even zero taxes on companies and individual people. So even if you're just super rich, you don't have a company or anything, you can still avoid taxes by having your accounts in Switzerland, making it even easier for the richest people in the world to not pay the taxes they're supposed to. And lastly, a bonus for sticking with us until the end. Qatar is also a country where not just the rich, but anyone could potentially go and avoid taxes because they have a 0% personal income tax rate, and any money that's earned from outside the country is completely tax-free. Although it's a little tricky to get the visas to live there permanently, if you can get there, even you wouldn't have to pay a penny in taxes, just like the super rich. Thanks for spending some time with us today, Aluxer. We appreciate every single one of you. We'll see you back here tomorrow.